When we ended the last time, the lieutenant and 4 of his mechanics had been enlisted as ambulance drivers, were sitting in a shallow dugout eating spaghetti and cheese, drinking still wine, and listening to the artillery and machine gun fire and the explosions creeping closer on all sides of their position. So I want to give you a warning in this chapter. There are graphic descriptions of bodily injury and death. So if you'd rather not hear the violent and gruesome details of this war, I recommend skipping ahead to chapter 10. But my name is Tricia Sulpizio. I'm a professor of communication and your host for another episode of Tea and Bedtime Stories. It's a podcast for anyone who likes to read good books. In this episode, we'll continue reading A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, published in 1929. Last time we read chapter 9, part 1, because it was a really long chapter of book 1. And now I'll continue, finish chapter 2. Part 2 of chapter 9. After reading, I will follow up with a few quick facts and my impressions. So let's continue the reading with book 1, chapter 9, part 2. Yes, sir. I ate the end of my piece of cheese and took a swallow of wine. Through the other noise, I heard a cough. Then came a cha-cha-cha-cha, and then there was a flash, as when a blast furnace door swung open, and a roar that started white and went red and on in a rushing wind. I tried to breathe, but my breath would not come, and I felt myself rush bodily out of myself, and out, and out, and out, and all the time bodily in the wind. I went out swiftly, all of myself, and I knew I was dead, and that it had all been a mistake to think you just died. Then I floated, and instead of going on, I felt myself slide back. I breathed, and I was back. The ground was torn up, and in front of my head there was a splintered beam of wood. In the jolt of my head, I heard somebody crying. I thought somebody was screaming. I tried to move, but I could not move. I heard the machine guns and rifle firing across the river, all along the river. There was a great splashing, and I saw a star shell go up and burst and float whitely, and rockets going up, and heard the bombs, all this in a moment. And then I heard close to me someone saying, "Mamma mia, oh mamma mia." I pulled and twisted and got my legs loose finally and turned around and touched him. It was Pacini, and when I touched him, he screamed. His legs were toward me, and I saw in the dark and the light that they were both smashed above the knee. One leg was gone, and the other was held by tendons and part of the trouser, and the stump twitched and jerked as though it were not connected. He bit his arm and moaned, "Oh, mamma mia." Then, "Dio te salve, Maria. Dio te salve, Maria. Oh, Jesus, shoot me. Christ, shoot me. Mamma mia. Oh, purest love, Mary, shoot me. Stop it. Oh, Jesus, lovely Mary, stop it. Oh. And then choking, "Mamma mia." And then he was quiet, biting his arm, the stump of his leg twitching. "Porta feriti," I shouted, holding my hands cupped. "Porta feriti." I tried to get closer to Pacini to try to put a tourniquet on the leg, but I could not move. I tried again and pulled my legs, and my legs moved a little. I could pull backward along with my arms and elbows. Pacini was quiet now. I sat beside him, undid my tunic, and tried to rip the tail of my shirt. It would not rip, and I bit the edge of the cloth to start it. Then I thought of his puttees. I had on wool stockings, but Pacini wore puttees. All the drivers wore puttees, but Pacini had only one leg. I unwound the puttee, and while I was doing it, I saw there was no need to try and make a tourniquet because he was dead already. I made sure he was dead. There were 3 others to locate. I sat up straight And as I did, something inside my head moved like the weights in a doll's eyes, and it hit me inside and back of my eyeballs. My legs felt warm and wet, and my shoes were wet and warm inside. I knew that I was hit, and I leaned over and put my hand on my knee. My knee wasn't there. My hand went in, and my knee was down on my shin. I wiped my hand on my shirt, and another floating light came and very, very slowly down. And I looked at my leg, and I was afraid. "Oh, God," I said. "Get me out of here." I knew, however, that there had been 3 others. There were 4 drivers. Passini was dead. That left 3. Someone took hold of me under the arms, and somebody else lifted my legs. "There are 3 others," I said. "One is dead." "It's Manera." "We went for the stretcher, but there wasn't any. How are you, Tenente?" "Where's Gordini and Gavuzzi?" "Gordini's at the post getting bandaged. Gavuzzi has your legs." "Hold on to my neck, Tenente. Are you badly hit?" "In the leg. How's Gordini?" "He's all right. It was a big trench mortar shell. Passini's dead." "Yes, he's dead." "A shell fell close, and they both dropped to the ground and dropped me." "I'm sorry, Tenente," said Manera. "Hang on to my neck. If you drop me again, it's because we were scared. Are you unwounded?" "We are both wounded a little." "Can Gordini drive?" "I don't think so." They dropped me once more before we reached the post. "You sons of bitches," I said. "I'm sorry, Tenente," Manera said. "We won't drop you again." Outside the post, a great many of us lay on the ground in the dark. They carried wounded in and brought them out, and I could see the light come from the dressing station when the curtain opened and they brought someone in or out. The dead were off to one side. The doctors were working with their sleeves up to their shoulders, and they were red as butchers. There was not enough stretchers. Some of the wounded were noisy, but most were quiet. The wind blew the leaves in the bower over the door of the dressing station, and the night was getting cold. Stretcher bearers came in all the time, put their stretchers down, unloaded them, and went away. As soon as I got to the dressing station, Manera brought a medical sergeant out, and he put bandages on both my legs. He said there was so much dirt blown into the wound that there had not been much hemorrhage. They would take me as soon as possible. He went back inside. Gordini could not drive, Manera said. His shoulder was smashed and his head was hurt. He had not felt bad, but now the shoulder had stiffened. He was sitting up beside one of the brick walls. Manera and Gavuzzi each went off with a load of wounded. They could drive all right. The British had come with 3 ambulances, and they had 2 men on each ambulance. One of their drivers came over to me, brought by Gordini, who looked very white and sick. The Britisher leaned over. "Are you hit badly?" he asked. He was a tall man, and he wore steel-rimmed spectacles. "In the legs. It's not serious, I hope. Will you have a cigarette?" "Thanks." "They tell me you've lost 2 drivers." "Yes. One killed and the other fellow that brought you." "What rotten luck. Would you like us to take the cars?" "That's what I wanted to ask you." "Well, we take quite good care of them and return them to the Villa 206, aren't you?" "Yes." "It's a charming place. I've seen you about. They tell me you're an American." "Yes." "I'm English." "No." "Yes, English. Did you think I was Italian?" "There were some Italians with one of our units." "It would be fine if you would take the cars," I said. We'll be most careful with them." He straightened up. "This chap of yours was very anxious for me to see you." He patted Gordini on the shoulder. Gordini winced and smiled. The Englishman broke into voluble and perfect Italian. "Now everything is arranged. I've seen your tenente. You will take over the 2 cars. You won't worry now." He broke off. "I must do something about getting you out of here. I'll see the medical wallas. We'll take you back with us." He walked across the dressing station, stepping carefully among the wounded. I saw the blanket open, the light came out, and he went in. "He will look after you, Tenente," Gordini said. "How are you, Franco?" "I'm all right." He sat down beside me. In a moment, the blanket in front of the dressing station opened and 2 stretcher bearers came out, followed by the tall Englishman. He brought them over to me. "Here's the American tenente," he said in Italian. "I'd rather wait," I said. "There's much worse wounded than me. I'm all right." Come, he said. "Don't be a bloody hero." Then in Italian, "Lift him very carefully about the legs. His legs are very painful. He's legitimate son of President Wilson." They picked me up and took me into the dressing room. Inside, they were operating on all tables. The little major looked at us furious. He recognized me and waved a forceps. "Ça va bien. Ça va." "I have brought him in," the tall Englishman said in Italian. "The only son of the American ambassador. He can be here until you are ready to take him. Then I will take him with my first load." He bent over me. "I'll look up their adjutant to do your papers, and it will all go much faster." He stooped to go under the doorway and went out. The major was unhooking the forceps now, dropping them in a basement. I followed his hands with my eyes. Now he was bandaging. Then the stretcher bearers took the man off the table. "I'll take the American tenente," one of the captains said. They lifted me onto the table. It was hard and slippery. There were many strong smells, chemical smells, and the sweet smell of blood. They took off my trousers, and the medical captain commenced dictating to the sergeant adjutant while he worked. Multiple superficial wounds of the left and right thigh, and left, right knee, and right foot. Profound wounds of the right knee and foot. Lacerations of the scalp. He probed. "Does that hurt?" "Christ, yes." "With possible fractures of the skull. Incurred in the line of duty. That's what keeps you from being court-martialed for self-inflicted wounds," he said. "Would you like a drink of brandy?" How did you run into this thing anyway? What were you trying to do? Commit suicide?" "Anti-tetanus, please. And mark a cross on both legs. Thank you. I'll clean this up a little, wash it out, and put on dressing. Your blood coagulates beautifully." The adjutant looking up from the papers. "What inflicted the wounds?" The medical captain. "What hit you?" Me with eyes shut. "A trench mortar shell." The captain doing things that hurt sharply and severing tissues. "Are you sure?" Me trying to lie still and feeling my stomach flutter when the flesh was cut. "I think so." Captain Doctor interested in something he was finding. "Fragments of enemy trench mortar shell. Now I'll probe for some of this, and if you'd like, but it's not necessary. I'll paint all this, and does that sting?" "Good, that's nothing to how it will feel later. The pain hasn't started yet." "Bring him a glass of brandy. The shock dulls the pain. But this is all right. You have nothing to worry about. If it doesn't infect, and it rarely does now. How's your head?" "Good Christ," I said. "Better not drink too much brandy then. If you've got a fracture, you don't want inflammation. How does that feel?" Sweat ran all over me. "Good Christ," I said. "I guess you've got a fracture all right. I'll wrap you up and don't bounce your head around." He bandaged, his hands moving very fast and the bandage coming taut and sure. "All right, good luck, and vive la France." "He's an American," one of the other captains said. "I thought you said he was a Frenchman." "He talks French," said the captain. "I've known him before. I always thought he was French." He drank a half tumbler of cognac. "Bring on something serious. Get some more of that anti-tetanus." The captain waved to me. He lifted me, and the blanket flap went across my face as we went out. Outside, the sergeant adjutant knelt down beside me where I lay. "Name?" he asked softly. "Middle name, first name, rank, where born, what class, what corps, so on." "I'm sorry for your head." Tenente, I hope you feel better. I'm sending you now with the English ambulance. I'm all right, I said. Thank you very much. The pain that the major had spoken about had started, and all that was happening was without interest or relation. After a while, the English ambulance came up, and they put me onto a stretcher and lifted the stretcher up into the ambulance level and shoved it. There was another stretcher on the side with a man on it whose nose I could see, waxy looking out of the bandages. He breathed very heavily. There were stretchers lifted and slid onto the slings above. The tall English driver came around and looked in. I'll take it very easy, he said. I hope you'll be comfy. I felt the engine start, felt him climb up into the front seat, felt the brake come off, and the clutch go in. And then we started. I lay still and let the pain ride. As the ambulance climbed along the road, it was slow in the traffic. Sometimes it stopped. Sometimes it backed on a turn. Then finally it climbed quite fast. I felt something dripping. At first it dripped slowly and regularly, and then it pattered into a stream. I shouted to the driver. He stopped the car and looked in through the hole behind his seat. What is it? The man on the stretcher over me has a hemorrhage. We're not far from the top. I wouldn't be able to get the stretcher out alone. He started the car. The stream kept on. In the dark, I could not see where it came from. The canvas overhead. I tried to move sideways so that it did not fall on me. Where it had run down under my shirt, it was warm and sticky. I was cold and my leg hurt so that it made me sick. After a while, the stream from the stretcher above lessened and started to drip again. And I heard and felt the canvas above move as the man on the stretcher settled more comfortably. How is he? The Englishman called back. We're almost up. He's dead, I think. The drops fell very slowly, as they fall from the icicle after the sun is gone. It was cold in the car in the night as the road climbed. At the post on the top, they took the stretcher out and put another in, and we went on. That's the end of chapter 9 of book 1. So now a few quick facts and then my impressions. Dio de salve Maria, when he was calling out to his mother, that just means Hail Mary. When the tenente was saying Porta feriti, he's screaming for someone to take the wounded. Tourniquet, if you don't know what that is a bandage that tries to stop the bleeding. It's a compression on the blood vessels so that the bleeding stops. And putis are the coverings that soldiers used to wear over their boots. It's basically a long strip of cloth that they wrap around their leg, I guess to protect their legs where the boots, their pants end in the boot. They're like gaiters or whatever, or spats maybe, would be the closest thing to it. They're not worn anymore, but they used to be quite popular. Wallas, when he was talking about medical wallas, that's an informal Hindi word for people who are connected with a particular thing, like a thing or function, like their business or service, or it could refer to the region or their ethnicity. So you would call somebody like a rickshaw walla or a Bombay walla. Okay. Ça va in Spanish is how are you. Adjutant is a weird word for basically an administrative assistant to a military senior officer. When the doctor said, I'll paint this, he was basically talking about swabbing him with antiseptic. Vive la France is just long live France, because he thought he was French. But those are all the quick facts I have. My impressions, this is so sad what the men of World War I went through. Even those that never picked up a weapon, they all suffered tremendously. Just bystanders and support people. But it also says a lot about the lieutenant's character that his first thoughts were, to take care of his crew. And it's crazy that he remembers dying and coming back. Also, it's really sad that Pacini lost his legs and then his life so tragically, calling out for his mother and screaming for the Virgin Mary to help him. It really highlights the agony and distress he was feeling in those moments. I don't know, suffering was so great, and knowing that it wouldn't end anytime soon, it almost felt like a relief when he passed quickly. But so many people were damaged by that war, and even though it happened a long time ago, it's easy to forget that these were human beings and they weren't just numbers. I think that's why, as humans, we kind of get obsessed with counting things. Right? It cost this many billions of dollars, because then we don't think of it as real. I think it's our way of detaching some way from the human cost. When we, just count bullets or whatever, we are trying to find a way to distance ourselves from the emotional toll of thinking about all that human suffering. It's horrible. It's too much. But I think the special treatment that the lieutenant got by the man who was obviously an officer in the British, he had some weight that he could throw around, and he did that for the lieutenant once he gave him permission to take the trucks that he had, the ambulances that he had. It was a win-win for both of them. But it does kind of show the contrast between his treatment and the man who later hemorrhages above him in the ambulance, right? He's given brandy, even though he said, there are others that are more wounded than me. It alludes to this, class discrepancies that always exist in every hierarchical system. I'm not saying his injury wasn't serious or life-threatening, but even he noticed that other people needed more attention. And some individuals are just seen as more valuable than others. We saw that a lot during the pandemic. And whether it's based on friendship, rank, or some other arbitrary factor, right? The truth is that some people experience privilege and others suffer as a result. Suffer or die as a result. Anyway, the British officer, right, who helped him was a really interesting character, even though it was just a blurb. His perfect Italian and use of the word wallas, I don't know, I interpreted that as he has to be a professional military man. Career military, meaning he probably served all over the world. That was his job, and he was good at it. And because it doesn't make sense. It makes sense that he would have been there before the British got there officially. I don't know. He's an interesting character. I hope they revisit him later in the story. But I think the descriptions of his sensory experiences were really vivid, and I could strongly empathize with him. I had a few major injuries myself, and that ambulance ride is sobering and surreal all at the same time, and I think he described that beautifully. I also felt the helplessness that the driver and he must have felt when they realized, there's nothing they could do for the man above them. Right? He couldn't do anything alone. It's the same kind of heart sickness I feel when I see a struggling homeless person in my city. And it's a small town, but there are a lot of them here. Unfortunate souls. I don't know. And I do whatever I can, but I still feel powerless because I know alone I can't make any kind of a difference. But I don't know. Maybe it's like Lieutenant Henry's attempt to help Bassini. Like, it was totally futile. He was too wounded to be of any service, and there was no chance of saving him at that point, but at least he cared enough to try. That's all I have for Chapter 9. In the next episode, I will continue Book 1, Chapter 10 of A Farewell to Arms. Please join me again next week for more Team Bedtime Stories. There's only 3 chapters left in Book 1. And then I'm planning to change up the format of the podcast a little bit for Book 2. I don't know, I'm excited to learn whether or not it makes any difference in your experience as a listener. But I'm going to put my email in the description, and I'd really love to hear your thoughts. So anyway, I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks for listening.